Going on, everybody? We are back here in X-Plane 11 today. Finally, after a while, been on a little hiatus from recording. But we're back in the sim today. We are in Houston this morning at the beautiful freeware Houston Hobby Airports. Today we're flying southwest. This is a new 737-700 that just released on X-Plane less than a month ago, I believe. I believe it's been less than a month. So it's baby version of the 737-800. It's actually, this looks like a 737-800 right here. It's a little bit bigger, but this is just a smaller version here. They use this plane for cross-country domestic flights as well, but it's usually for the shorter hops. So today we're flying to Dallas Love. It's Love Field Airport in Dallas, Texas. It's a pretty short flight. It's about a 45-minute flight. We'll get up in the air. We'll probably, I'm not sure what our cruise altitude is quite yet, but we're not going to be up there very long. We're going to hit top of climb and then go right back down almost immediately. So it's going to be a pretty quick flight today. Got some custom scenery going on here. I finally got some ortho set up for X-Plane. So it's going to be nice to showcase that as long as the clouds don't cover it up too much. We've had some nasty weather here in Texas the last few days, so hopefully the clouds don't get in the way of that. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. Go ahead and turn all this good stuff on. I need to connect the APU. Sorry, the GPU. For now, at least until the APU gets up and running. And it is summertime in Texas, so of course it's going to be hot outside. Go ahead and turn those on, get the APU bleeds on auto. And you can hear the AC kicking on here. Let's go ahead and jump up here, get our IRSs up and running. So go ahead and turn our position lights on. Flip that over. I think we're all right there. We can go ahead and start the flight leg. Get people boarding. It shouldn't take me too terribly long to get everything programmed in here. I'm a month out of date here. Doesn't really matter. Let me actually get the panel lights turned on here. Alright, so we're at Houston Hobby. And we're going to Dallas Love Field. Here, Southwest Airlines, and as usual, we're 7488. That is good to go there. I'm going to pull our fuel gross weights here. IRSs are up and running. I'm going to go ahead and switch power to the APU. And we can go ahead and disconnect the GPU. Overhead panel looks good. We've got pressure going already, so people aren't dying of heat exhaustion. Don't need the window heats on quite yet. Alright, so let's go ahead and load in fuel. Go to sim brief here. Sim brief wants us at 67.17 for fuel. So I'm going to do 6.8. And then zero fuel weight needs to be 52. So we need to raise this about 9.5. This will be 14.4. 52, close enough. Takeoff weight, so that's our gross weight, 58.8. It's a little off, but it's usually always off a little bit, no problem. Alright, so weights are loaded here. See it there. Our cruise altitude, 340. I don't know if we're going to get up to 340, honestly. That seems a little high, but it's going to depend on the winds. Oops. Winds 264.47, ISIT deviation is 12, so 264. 47. Isodev is 12. Reserves we'll just put at 2.5 for now, and then our cost index 65. So we're going to have a little bit of a headwind. That's what that tells me. Go ahead and execute that. And the departure that I want to use is the Westland, or the Wilson 7. I got to pull the runway information here. Wilson 7, it's the magic transition, and then I need to get airport info up and running here. Alright, perfect. Back, go to our departure. We said Wilson 7. Wilson 7. Yep, that looks about right. We can take off a mini runway, so it's not runway restrictive, which is good. Let's pull the current weather here. So, no significant weather. Altimeter's 29 or 88. I'm going to plug that in now. Perfect. And the winds are 190 at 10. So we'll take off from 2-2. We could do 1-7. It's a shorter runway. I'd rather just go on the longer runway. In real life, I want to say they probably use the 1-3s with a crosswind. I guess I could cheat. What? Yeah, I think this has them coming in on the 1-3s. They're departing here. Well, no, they departed from 2-2, so we're just gonna go 2-2. I don't think there's any other traffic around us. Yeah, we have no ATC online right now. We are on VATSIM. So we'll go 2-2. Execute that. And that should take us straight into Dallas. There's nothing else we need to do. Yeah, red and 4. So we'll just go to KHOU-KDAL and then go to red and 4. And let me just double check to make sure that actually makes sense. So every once in a while, SimBrief will spit out a stupid sitter star that doesn't make sense for the winds, but it's usually spot on. Go ahead and pull airport information here for Dallas. Arrival is the red and 4 arrival. Yeah, so we're coming from Magic here, make our way northwest, and it's going to put us out right here, so that's going to have us landing northwest. Well, it says suspect vectors, so I guess we could circle around if we need to. Let me pull the weather up in Dallas. So 160, so that's going to be landing south. So once we get to this point here, we're going to have to circle around and give our own vectors. But that's fine, because the approach, because we'll probably do 1-3 left. So let's go ahead and, just so I can already have it in the system, so approach, we're going to do an ILS 1-3 left. So we'll circle around and try to hit Wade's and come in here. So that'll be my waypoint that I'm going to look for. Right, so ILS by Y? Oh, that's the only other. It's weird. I didn't see that on the chart. So legs. Okay, so then we'll go to the legs page. We don't have any discontinuities. Right, so Bakra vector, great. There's wades right there, so we'll vector ourselves over 2 wades, and that'll get us on 1-3 left, so that should be pretty easy. All right, perfect. That'll pull in our outside air temperature, 27 degrees Celsius. It's pretty spicy outside. We're gonna have a little bit of a headwind. I'm wondering just how long is the runway? Just with it being hot outside, the air density is not going to be. It's a 7,600 foot runway. I'm just gonna go full toga. I'm not gonna derate the takeoff. It's with the heat. I don't want to take the chance of not getting out. I didn't really feel like doing more calculations on it, so we're just gonna go full throttle on takeoff, and that's that. Perfect. We're gonna go flaps 5 degrees. Trim 4.5. It's about where it needs to be. Yeah, so 142 is the V2 speed. Perfect. All right, so FMC is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and cut the seatbelt signs on, get them to sit their asses down.
The captain's call. If you can ask somebody here to take their seats for a little bit, so please make sure you're in your seat with your seatbelt securely fastened until he does turn that fasten seatbelt sign off and we get to the response.
Response is at 340. And our elevation's 477 feet on landing. Let's do 450. Actually, round up 500. How about that? Alright, perfect. Don't need the probe beats on quite yet. I've already got the fuel pumps cut on. We're just about ready to get the hell out of here. I'll get the MCP set up here. What was that, 142? And we'll go ahead and put the heading in here, 220, just in case the VNAV decides to mess up and we have to vector ourselves. No ATC online, so I'm not going to really do the step climb or via the SID. I'm just going to get us straight up to 340, because even with the headwind, I don't know if we're going to make it to 340. That's how quickly the top of the SID's going to come up on us, so I'll go ahead and just go straight to 340. And of course, normally if ATC's online, they'll have me climb via the SID, so normally they would only clear us to about 16,000, which is actually a higher top altitude than normal. But I'm just going to put it at 340. But if ATC was on, they would never do that. Alright, perfect. Flight directors on, LNAV, VNAV. This is an RNAV departure. Nope, there's a vector. We're actually going to vector to Wilson, so we are not going to be LNAV. We're going to be heading select, because there's no waypoint direct off the runway. So normally we're going to take off on 22, and then ATC will just say take off via this heading. Usually it's runway heading or something close to it, and then they'll vector you to the next waypoint, which would be Wilson. So that's what we'll handle once we get into the air. Transponder, we're just going to go get these on here real quick. Just do that. Transponder's on. I'm going to turn the weather radar on just in case we run into any sticky spots here. We are basically ready for push and start at this point. Right. Go ahead and call for better pushback. I guess I should figure out where I'm at on the airport. So we're going to push and face right. Just got to get to 2-2. Can't tell if that's an actual taxiway.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready. Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Perfect. Actually, we'll wait till we push back on that. Anti-collision can come on. Fuel pumps are on. I don't have any center fuel, at least I shouldn't, so the center fuel pumps can stay off.
Flight attendants prepare for departure, cross-check and all call, thank you.
Keep the packs on as long as possible until we are ready to actually engine starts. And overhead panel is fine. It will close the door for me. Perfect. Normally when you jump in, you're supposed to do some tests.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Cargo fire test, right? And you're just looking to make sure that your fire warnings are actually working, right? So fire test there, and then you would come up here and just make sure your airspeed tests are working. Stall warning. Okay, just make sure all that's working. You would do that before any of the stuff that I did, though. That's one of the first things you do. And then you can do this and light everything up in the cockpit, just to make sure there's no burnt out bulbs or anything.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Oh, I didn't detach the jetway. Oops.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Alright, so we're clear for engine start. We're going to go ahead and cut the packs on, isolation valve. That'll increase the duct pressure, and then engine 2 can go to ground. I think there's any traffic around us. Still no ATC. Get to 25% into, and then we will give it some fuel here.
Attention for just a moment, we'd like to point out the safety features of our Boeing 737. To properly fasten your seatbelt, slide the flat end into the buckle. To unfasten, lift up on the buckle, it will...
Alright, good start engine 2. Go ahead and cut 1 on.
On the floor of the aisle designate exit. The safety information card could be found...
The sounds are modeled ridiculously well in this. It's basically the Zebo. It's the same development team. Alright, fuel's good on engine 1. Alright, starter's cut out. Go ahead and switch power to the engine gens, cut the APU off. Get the packs on, that way we don't die of heat exhaustion. Go ahead and cut the probe heats on, power over to Gen 1. Engine starters to continuous for departure. I'll wait to cut the lights on once they get done pushing us back, because they'll yell at us. Brakes, RTO. Flaps 5.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
breathe normally. Receiving oxygen.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Or someone acting
And go
like
and do a
one.
flight controls
Put
check
your mask
here.
on first, then help them with theirs. Leave the mask in.
Flight control check. Make sure my nose wheel steering is working. I've had issues with it lately. I feel like I need to adjust this. Disconnect. Let him disconnect here. Taxi lights can come on. Wheel well light can come on. Strobe lights is on. We have pressure. Packs set to auto. Everything is on auto.
KHOU is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Before takeoff, we'll check the config here in just a sec. Flaps are set green, so we're good there. Stabilizer trim, we set that earlier. Cabin secure MCP is set. Got our heading and VNAV set there. Altimeters are set to 9088. Strobe lights on. Landing lights will be on prior to takeoff. And we're going to taxi straight ahead here. We're going to get on taxiway Zulu and just take it straight on. Actually, it looks like Yankee, and then we're going to go straight to 22. Looks like we're going to curl around there. Yep. And we'll do a quick takeoff configuration check here. Just increase the throttles. And okay, there's a warning going off. What are we missing? So normally when you hear that buzz, that means we forgot to configure something, but the flaps are set. Let me try it again. I think that's a bug, honestly, because we have everything set. Let me taxi it a little bit, I'll take a look at it. Because it would be a more continuous thing. It sounds like it's bugging out. Are the flaps? I think it's the flaps. I think the flaps are... Yeah, there it goes. Okay. Alright. So that config will go off if you... I believe it's 50%. Once you go beyond 50% of your N1 is where they think you're trying to take off, and if your configuration is off, such as your flaps or your RTO brakes or anything like that, then it's going to yell at you. Alright, so... Yep, we'll just take this all the way here. Runway is literally right here, so it's a pretty short taxi. Let's go ahead and... Okay, there's no announcement for that. Okay, that's fine. Well, actually... Cut the landing lights on. Taxi lights can come off. And we're just going to roll straight on and get on out of here. So we're going to fly runway heading out, so we'll just do heading 220. And then we'll vector ourselves out once we get to an appropriate altitude and just go straight to Wilson. Alrighty, so with the runway threshold here, we're just going to check, make sure we have no incoming aircraft or anything like that. We are good. Go ahead and taxi onto the runway. Check the recall real quick. Go ahead and start the clock. I should have checked the recall before taxi. That is part of the checklist. And runway 22 is verified. Alright, throttle up about 40-ish% to make sure. And auto throttle on. Full toga.
$80 knots.
Cross checks.
V1 rotate. Positive rate.
And gear coming up. Pitch up here, and they want us at about a
1,000.
pitch. It's a little high, but that's fine. Checked. Yeah, I'm gonna take us, well, it's already direct Wilson, so. Go ahead and activate the LNAV here. We're gonna make a right turn. Normally ATC would give us more instructions at this point, but again, we don't have ATC on. We're going to go ahead and turn that off. That can go off. I'm going to manually fly this here for a little bit. Downtown Houston over there. The nose down a little bit, get some speed. Go ahead and bring the flaps in. Not sure why we're increasing in speed the way we are. We should be throttling down here. Perfect. Go ahead and turn the autopilot on. So there's Wilson right here. We're going direct about 40 miles south of Wilson. Just monitor things from here. A little hazy. Summertime in Texas usually looks like this on most mornings. Make sure we are pressurizing. We are. I just don't want this to go beyond the 8,000 on this, or 8. Just keep an eye on that. Alright, so after takeoff checklist, air conditioning pressure set. We just check that. Engine start switches, we can go ahead and turn those to auto. Landing gear is up and off. That is verified. Auto brake is off. Flaps up, no lights. That's checked. And the altimeters are set. We are above 10,000 feet. We can go ahead and bring our lights in.
And in Los Angeles. On the fence, while that seatbelt sign is on, you must remain in your seat with your seatbelt securely fastened until the captain feels it safe and turns it off.
I see my throttle loader's all jacked up. I've got a SATEC throttle quadrant, and it's got some weird dead zones that's causing this to happen, so I'm getting some asymmetrical thrust. Alright. So, well, we'll keep an eye on that. It usually gives me issues almost every flight. It's a $60 throttle quadrant, but it's a little finicky. I've tried recalibrating it. I just think some of the dead zones on it are kind of finicky. I just got to monitor the thrust, because sometimes the auto throttle will just kick off randomly, and it's annoying, especially if I don't notice it right away. And it's kind of an issue if you're on final approach, so we really got to pay attention to it when we're on final. Alright, so we're climbing about 3,300 feet a minute. It's a little bit of a steep climb, but that's fine. Just get us to our cruise a little bit quicker. Top of climb is showing right there. Our top of distance a little bit farther out, so we'll hit top of climb. We won't be there for long, though. It's going to be about 30 miles, and then we're going to come right back down. Go ahead and release the cabin crew, let them do their thing. That needs to be... Yep. Wing light can come off. That light can come off. Everything else is good. Blow up. Yeah, so can't see much on the ground right now. It's really hazy and really cloudy. We'll have us on the map here. We're about right here, though. We're going to hit Wilson and then make our way to magic. Alright, we'll go to standard altimeter. You can't see shit on the ground. Hopefully it clears up a little bit in Dallas. That way we can see a little bit of the ortho. Ortho's a pain in the ass to install. I've got the Fork Boy orthos, which they make it as easy as it probably can be. See, it goes to auto throttle. So what I usually do is I do that, flip it back on, and then it'll do its own thing. Yeah, this throttle quadrant's a little finicky, but it's better than what I was using before because I was just using the little throttle slider on the joystick that I have, and it's a little bit more realistic to do it this way. That's also why I was having the takeoff config error, because I have a flaps lever set on it too, and if I don't put it right where it needs to be on the quadrant, it'll make that sound that we heard earlier where it's trying to switch between flap settings, and it throws a configuration error out because it thinks that I'm trying to change the flap settings. So there we go. Here's a little bit of a view here. So this is like worlds different than like default scenery. Default scenery, it's like you'll notice that it's like the same patterns over and over again. This is like actual, like, some of it's like Bing scenery, some of it's just like satellite imagery that they pull, but it's photoreal scenery, so it makes it look a lot better, especially when you're on cruise. It takes up a ton of hard drive space. So for example, Texas is divided into east and west. West Texas alone was like 125 gigs or something like that, just for that section. And I have the entire, I finished the eastern part of the United States, from New England all the way down to Florida. It's about 4 or 5 different ortho sections. You're talking, I don't know, 600 or 700 gigabytes, maybe. California alone was almost 200, I think, 200 gigs. So you've got to have some hard drive space. You got to have at least a couple of terabytes just for the United States. And if you're a global flyer and you fly in Europe and everywhere and you want the full ortho experience, then yeah, you're gonna suck up some hard drive space. I'm gonna step away real quick. Alright, we're back here. So we get a little bit of a weather cell right here. It's off to our left. It's not going to be an issue if it stays right there. Keep an eye on it though. keep in mind that all that ortho is completely free, which is phenomenal. See any red in there, so we should be fine. Hopefully it hangs out right there. It doesn't give us any issues. Am I on? Okay, I'm on 122.8. Just I didn't check that before. So about 40 miles from top of descent here, we should easily get to flight level 340. I was at a decel right there. We're gonna start descending because sometimes it'll adjust. Oh, sorry, top of descent is 40 miles. Our top of climb is like right here. My mistake. So we can go ahead and start briefing the arrival.
1,000 to go.
Red and 4 arrival, so we're coming from this direction here. Have a restriction here. It happens. We got to be in between 30,000 and 24,000 feet. So let's just make sure that is in there. Yep. And there's the restriction there. It's got the speed restriction. And then last restriction on the arrival is going to be Orville. That's 9,250 knots. 9,250, perfect. And then after that, we're basically on our own. As long as we stay below 250 knots, then we can descend at our leisure. But we are gonna have to circle around to get to the 1-3s at Dallas Love. So we won't have to throw it down too quick. All right, so we've hit our top of climb here. Let them do their thing. Make a quick announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached our cruising altitude. Flight is smooth, so I'll turn the seatbelt sign off. I would like to ask you to do a favor, so please sleep your seatbelt fast. Small speakers just in case we get find an unexpected bump. Also, please don't hold the line to approach the forward galley laboratory area. We really appreciate you choosing to fly with Southwest this morning. Hope you enjoy the trip. Have a great week. Please come back and see us again real soon.
It's so cool that they incorporate that into the airplane. Like, they know what airline you're flying already based on the livery that you choose, so the announcements are already tailor-made to that airline, which is freaking awesome. I can't say it enough. The fact that an airplane like this, the Zebra project, all the 737s, because are these not synced up? I never had that synced up. Interesting. The fact that the entire 737 series is all freeware. You get all of this. You get this. You can incorporate your charts into this. Announcements, the flight modeling. It's amazing, the work that they've done. Let's see here. I want the altimeters to be synced. There we go. Okay, so that should sync both sides. What that does is that syncs the altimeters on both sides. That way I don't have to go in here and reconfigure. In real life, the first officer has his own deal here. Everything is independent of one another on both sides for redundancy. But just for the sake of ease and laziness, I like to have it synced. That way I don't have to worry about it. little bit of a frame rate hit here. Probably loading in some more ortho, perhaps. So we're coming up on the top of descent here. I'm going to go ahead and plug in 9,000 here. The aircraft should start descending on its own once we hit that descent point. I'm going to go ahead and get that plugged in here. Perfect. So ATC at this point, you know, they would, when we're this close, most of the time what they'll tell you is Southwest 7488, descend, pilot's discretion, descend via the red for arrival. And basically that just lets us know, okay, we can descend whenever we want. And since it's via the arrival, the last published restriction on here would be 9,000 feet. So we would just drop it down to 9,000 feet and then wait for further instructions from them. Sometimes they'll tell you descend via the arrival or descend and maintain flight level 230 or something like that. They'll give you like a descent, like a step descent. A lot of times it's, you know, just so they can stay occupied. And sometimes it's if there's other traffic in the area and they need to make sure that you're clear of that traffic. It's really their discretion. Just a little bumpy, nothing we can't handle. We got a 74 knot crosswind on us. So I'm surprised we're not deviating more off of our path with that, but I've seen worse. I've seen over 100 knots before. Alright, so we are starting our way down, so we're going to go ahead and actually cut the seatbelt signs back on. I'm going to throttle down, probably to idle, close to it. Although we don't hit a decel toll right here. Just really need to keep an eye on our speed here just to make sure we don't get into those red lines there. I got an FMC message. They want drag. Wow, this is a weird... The winds are kind of 3,700 feet a minute. A little bit of a steep descent. I'm going to go ahead and throw the boards out just so we don't get any overspeed warnings. We've got a pretty good cushion here, but I don't want to risk it. And I'd like to bring that nose up a little bit as well. It's a little bit of a steep descent, but we're fine. So right here, we want to make sure this little thing here is in the middle. That just shows that we are on our descent path. If this gets below here, that means that we're above it. If it goes above here, that means that we're below the descent path and we're descending too quickly. But we're right on target according to this, so we'll trust that it works. We're leveling off here a little bit here, so that should help with the speed. So I'm going to go ahead and put the boards back in. And those are the speed brakes. So when I pull these out, it's these guys right here, and it basically just slows the speed down. A lot of times if you're descending with a tailwind, you're going to catch a lot of speed. And you don't want to go over speed, so you throw those out just to regulate your airspeed. A little disappointed they don't put us on the map here. Some maps it works on, some maps it doesn't. I don't know what causes that. And this little system here is off to our left. It's not going to be modeled, of course, but it's out there somewhere. Let's go ahead and pull the weather up for Love Field again. Altimeter is going to be 2980. We can go ahead and pre-program that. 2980. And the winds are 200 at 1.4. So we're going to have a little bit of a crosswind coming in. It's gusting 23. The 1.3 is still the right runway though for that. Visibility is good. It's just the winds we're going to have to work with. Slowed our descent here to 1,200 feet a minute. Lead off some of that speed. So we're going to have to dip down a little bit. We're a little bit off, not too bad, but now our vertical speed's going to have to increase. I'm going to put us in flight to 10 here. Go ahead and set the auto brakes while I'm thinking about it. We'll put it at 2. There's no contamination on the runway, meaning there's no water or anything like that, so we could be a little bit more aggressive on braking, especially when landing on a crosswind. You don't really want a long landing, so I'm going to put it on a 2. That way we can just land and get off the runway as soon as possible. Pressurization is good. Yes, sir. Been in the air 23 minutes. Should be on the ground within the next 15 to 20. So I jack the landing up and have to do a go around, which on a crosswind, don't put it past me because crosswinds are not my forte. Hopefully the winds improve. We'll see. Steady descent here. About 2,000 feet a minute is about where you want to be at. That way you don't run into any speed issues. Ideally, I mean, just for speed control, you would like to have a little bit of a headwind. That way you're not having to concentrate so much on your speed, but it really doesn't matter. Professional pilots can handle it. Vectoring can be a little tricky once we get past our final waypoint, which is going to be right here. We'll be pretty close to the airport. Like I said, we're going to have to circle around to land on 13 left. Some of these arrivals, they put you right where you need to be. Some will be right into your final approach. Some require vectors. It just depends on the airport and the airspace, especially with this because DFW is right off in this area. You don't want any traffic conflicts with having to run into their airspace, so let's be wary of that. Let's look at Fantastic here and see. There's really no other traffic. That's not going to DFW. So I've got this airspace basically to myself. Why isn't my flight plan on there? It's weird. The hell? There it goes. Huh. That's why Dallas KHOU-KDAL wasn't showing up on there. Alright, so we're pay attention here. Altimeters are set. Throttles here. That's the speed we want to get to. It's going to take an hour to get there. Curious though. It's weird. Why doesn't it have my information on there? It has me on the radar, but it says I'm not following a flight plan, which is weird. It doesn't matter. There's really no ATC on anyway. 3,500 by weight. Just keep that in mind. Oh, there we go. It's really weird that the flight plan's not, because you would see KDAL on here, so that's how I know we're the only arrival, because it should show up on there, but for some reason the flight plan isn't sticking. VATSIM's had some issues lately. Like, they've had a lot of voiceover issues. The controllers are difficult to understand as it is. I know they're in their process of improving their voice codec, but lately when I've been flying with like I flew in Atlanta the other day, and like the controller like couldn't hear him. He's basically inaudible. He kept cutting in and out and then kept losing his connection. So VATSIM's having some networking issues on their end. Hopefully they get that resolved. It's a great program, but they they need to get their issues worked out. Probably need to go in and mess with the watercolor. It's a little unrealistic. We're not on the beach. So everything's looking good so far. Nothing crazy happening. Send checklist. Check that. Landing altitude check. Pressurization check. We configured that already. Anti-ice as needed. We are nowhere near the need for that. And approaching reef is good. We have plenty of fuel right now. We've got a little more than 5,000 kilograms on board, which is more than enough. And IAS indicated airspeed and altitude bugs are checked here. Coming up on 10,000, I'm going to go ahead and cut the landing lights on, runway turn-offs, and our wing lights. Coming up right here, we're going to circle around here. Waves is right here, so we're basically just going to go straight on here, and then I may vector out a little bit this way, that way it's not such a sharp turn on final. I'm going to go ahead and bring us down to 3,000 feet. Yeah, and that'll put us at it right about there. Should be fine. Should be throttling up here. We're losing a little bit of airspeed. It's the weather loading in. Why are we bleeding off speed? So why aren't the throttles throttling up? There they go. So we're supposed to be 240 knots. We dropped all the way to 225. Figured it out though. We get down to 9,000 feet really quick. I wonder. We'll keep an eye on it. Once we hit that point. Oh no, where were we supposed to be? Never mind. That's just top of descent right there. That threw me off. I'm going to go ahead and manually bring us down though. We'll do 1,000 feet a minute for now. Yeah, that puts us, we probably don't need it that steep actually. That should be fine. So we can regulate speed. I'm going to keep us at 250 knots for the time being, just so we can get it, because we've got to circle around, and I don't want to delay us any further. Alright, and when we land, we're going to exit to the right off the runway. Makes an enormous difference. There's the haze. Go ahead and actually start getting this configured. So we're gonna do I'm gonna do a flaps 30 arrival. Just with the crosswinds, I want a little bit more speed. So at flaps 30, our VREF speed is going to be 138 knots. ILS 13 left is a 111.50. So go ahead and plug that into the nav computer here. And then our course is going to be 133. And then on the event of a missed approach, we'll climb to 1,000 feet, and then a left turn, go up to 3,000, heading of 100. We'll basically just vector ourselves around is what this is saying, to Dumpy, which I believe is already programmed in. Yep. To Dumpy, and then we would be placed in a hold there in real life, depending on traffic, but we would just circle around and try the approach again should we miss. And minimums should be 200 feet. That's where we have to make a decision if we're going to land or go missed. ILS is already coming alive here. Airport is just off over here. Is that the airport? Kind of hard to tell. Downtown Dallas here. I've got the city modeled. Not sure where it's at. It's like right over here on the other side of downtown, so we'll circle around downtown and then be pretty close to where we need to be. It's going to be a little bit of a tight turn. I may be able to make that turn and not be too far off, but we don't want to have like a ridiculous banked turn either. There. Alright, so we've got our ILS, all that good stuff set. You can already see it popping up on here, so we know that that is good to go. Auto brakes are already set. I'm going to go ahead and arm our speed brake. And I'm going to start slowing us down here pretty soon. It's not the best modeling. This is actually a payware modeling, but there's like literally no other Dallas modeling. There's another one on the org store it's free, but it doesn't look that great. I'm gonna drop us down to 210 knots. Once again, our VREF is 138. Keep that in mind. And flaps 1. Should be showing up, but it's somewhere over here. I'm just not seeing it. We're still about 10 miles out before we need to make our left base turn to final. So I'm going to keep us at 210 knots for now. I probably could have waited a little bit longer before I slowed us down, but should be fine. There's the airport right there.
Thousand to go.
Just 2,500. So we need to be at 2,500 once we hit weights. That'll put us, should be on our glide path pretty easily. Go ahead and switch to my airport chart here. We're going to land 13 left, exit to the right. Landing lights are on. Forgot to make my cabin announcement.
Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for landing.
Go flaps 5.
We're making our call descent. Please check at this time. Make sure.
Thousand to go.
Go ahead and check the weather again here, see if the winds have shifted. Still the same. We're gonna have to deal with a little bit of a crosswind. It's down to 190. just a couple more seconds here. I just don't want to get all up on that runway just yet. Alright. Direct weights, start that left-hand turn. Go down to 170. Flaps 10. Can't go another flap lever without the gear. Check the recall. Recall's good. Make another left-hand turn there. That'll put us right on the... Go ahead and arm the localizer. It's a little bit of an early turn. We'll see what this thing does. Sometimes the LNAV is a little finicky. I'm gonna go ahead and drop our gear. Go flaps 15. Go and put us at our VREF speed just to be safe. It's 138. Gear down 3 green. I don't like our path here. I'm gonna go heading select. We should still be good to intercept it. Go ahead and go flaps full. Or sorry, flaps 30. Right. Flaps 30. There's our localizer. We just picked it up right as I started messing with that. We'll go ahead and arm approach mode. Alright, so landing checklist. Start switch is continuous. Landing lights are on. Recall checked. Gear down 3 green. Flaps set. Speed brake is armed. Pretend like we've been given landing clearance. Showing a crosswind of about 10 knots off our right nose. I do have the airport in sight straight ahead. We have not picked up the glide slope quite yet. It's okay. No. Don't do that. Had to adjust my throttles because I'm going to have to go manual throttle control here in just a sec. Alright, runway is in sight. Once again, we will exit the runway to the right. Still have about a 10 knot crosswind off of our right nose. Now 9. It's manageable. Alright, gear down 3 green. We do have the glide slope now. We should be throttling back. Auto brakes are set, speed brake is armed. Gear down. Flaps 30. VREF speed plugged in 138. And I'm going to put us at 3,000. Should we go missed? And I'll let the autopilot bring us in here a little bit closer. No other traffic that I can see. Come on. These throttles, man, I tell you what.
1,000.
1,000 feet, stabilized, Mr. Perch, altitude set.
See, we're increasing speed. Why are we increasing speed? Alright, my throttles. I gotta throttle back here a little bit. My airplane. Checked. Floating. Slam it down. Reverses out.
$80 knots.
80 knots checked. Manual braking. Stow the reversers. Bring the flaps in. We floated it a little bit. It was a stable approach, and I think I mistimed my flare a little bit. We'll exit right here. Should be going right over there. I'm gonna get past this holding point here. Flight directors can come off. And we'll hold right here. Get the aircraft configured. APU can come on. Taxi lights on. Landing lights off. Landing light off. Everything else should be good there. Just taxi straight ahead, take a right. Yeah, the crosswind wasn't that bad. I mistimed the flare, I think. Everything was stable until I force checked the flare up. I believe we still got it down in the touchdown zone. I'm going to go back and look at the replay, because if I would have floated it out any longer, we would have had to go around, but we got it down. If we had a wet runway, we probably would have had to go around, but since I had the auto brakes on 2, we stopped pretty quick. Oh, way off the taxi line. parking spot like right here. Cut through here. No traffic on the ground. This is freeware left field as well, in case anybody was wondering. I'm not following the rules here taxiing, by the way. I just want to get to the gate. APU is good to switch over to. Let's go to auto. Should have a marshaller. He's obstructed by the tug. Straighten out here. Don't feel like giving this throttle. I may have to. Perfect. Cut the engines. Make a mad dash for the gates. That can come off. Anti-collision can come off. Go to steady. Taxi lights come off. Fuel pumps off. Gotta move the bleeds back over. Perfect. APU gen. Alrighty, welcome to Dallas Love Field. And picture perfect parking job, might I say. City of Dallas there. DFW Airport is going to be over in this area. If I can get this configured. Usually you can see it. So my directions are all messed up. It's usually like out in this area. Actually, that may be it over there. That's it right there. Right. It's there. I promise. So pretty good flight here. Let's go ahead and disconnect from VATSIM here and take a look at the landing. Yeah, it actually put me on the right one way this time. It didn't look like an overflare. I'm definitely off center line, and then I landed right here first, but I wouldn't call it a rough landing. It just wasn't really symmetrical. It's not what I meant to hit. And I can't see the...
200.
Right there, I should have touched down. Put it out. Yeah. touchdown zone. Not my best landing, but not my worst either. I'll say that. All right, everyone. Well, appreciate everybody watching. Try to put out some more content here periodically. I just really wanted to showcase the ortho and the new 737-700 just to see how the sim's going to perform. And it looks like it performed quite well. So appreciate everybody watching, and we'll see you again soon.